From the Patriot source, we're calling it out. 100 million ghosts and they're starting to shout. Iron curtain rusted, every promise gone cold. We won't trade our freedom for a lie dressed in gold. They tried it here, they tried it there. Same old chains, same cold despair. Not on our watch, not on our land. Here's where we draw it, here's where we stand. Only you can prevent it. Only you hold the line, never bend it. Never again, we won't back down. Only you can hold communism down.
I can't get enough of that song. It's so good. Folks, you are gonna make sure you stick around for the end of the show today, because I see Guarding in the chat over there promoting. There's a version 2 of that song. We asked him to create a second version, an exit version, and it's even better than the first.
Yeah, it's really good.
It's really good. And you're going to start to see this promoted all over social media over the next couple of days and beyond, because it's my belief that these two versions of Only You Can Prevent Communism need to become the anthem for the American people, who are finally standing up and saying, we are not going to accept this form of confiscation in our country. Folks, I think we got a good one for you tonight. So we were planning to do some of this on Monday, but SK wasn't feeling great, so she took the night off. And I think Nam and I just decided we're going to wind her up and let her go, because we got a whole lot to talk about. A lot. As a matter of fact, all day long, she was just peppering us with stuff like, where do we go? I don't know. We'll find out where she wants to take this, because it's like we're going to try to do like a brain dump on you tonight. We're going to allow SK just to run wild, try to tell us everything she knows in a way that's comprehensible, that's comprehensible. And then we'll just go from there. We got some really cool clips, I think, that we'll be able to bring in to show you how the language, the use of language and narrative warfare is currently being used today. And if you recall from our show on Monday, we talked specifically about the need for us to be as crisp as possible in the language that we use in order to counter the narrative warfare and the use of language that they have been doing for a very long time, decades. SK was telling us before the show started that these organizations are so well funded, so well organized, but it's really just a small group of people, relatively small group of people at the very top. And there's there's this overlap of leadership of these organizations. So they know exactly what they're doing to brainwash you. That's what they're doing. I mean, I don't know another way to say it, SK. Am I overstating it? It's brainwashing that they're doing.
It absolutely is. Just like they took the word democracy and changed it the way that they did for so long. We don't have anything like this on the right. Obviously, the political parties talk about narrative and, get the platform together and then try to keep a semi-cohesive message. But they don't fund all of these studies to see what words resonate with the most Americans and how people react to them. And they don't tell you what words to use and what words to put together. And they don't say, instead of saying this, say this, because that's exactly how they change the definitions to all of these words and make people that don't know what they're saying think that it sounds good, and to make the people that know what they're saying know we're one of you.
Well, the reason why we don't do that on our side is because we're all too busy working. You see, all the people that have the time to go, this is what they do. They get paid by NGOs, by a bunch of billionaires, to sit around and figure out ways and write policy and do all of these focus groups and all of this testing on how to destroy the country while we're the ones that are working. Understand, they are being paid and they are organizing, and everything that they're doing is so that they can then turn around and take all of our productivity away from us. We are working, we are paying the taxes, we are the engine that is making this country run, and they're sitting around by the thousands of them with billions and billions of dollars, a lot of it coming from overseas, other countries, and they are organizing and they are working with other countries to steal every single dime that we are producing because we're at work and we don't have time to do this stuff.
That's right.
It's disgusting.
That's exactly right. So I'm going to change the script just a little bit. And I think where we need to start, Nam, if you don't have this ready yet, can you get the AOC clip, not the one where she's rattled, but the one where AOC basically confirms everything that we talked about last week. And then we'll roll from there. We're going to pull up and we're going to take a really close look at a PDF that SK sent us called the Waves Model Narrative, which is basically a framework for deep change. And then we're just going to wind her up and we're going to let her go. But I caught this clip today when I was floating around on social media, and it reminds me of exactly what we talked about on Monday. The reason why we have to start using very specific, very crisp language is because the people that we're talking to, they don't know what communism is. They don't know what real socialism is. Calling someone a communist today is no different than calling them a racist. It just doesn't mean anything anymore. And the reason for that is because of all the things that SK is going to walk us through. The narrative warfare. Communism and socialism, despite the fact that we know that it is in fact confiscation at its very core, to them is just utopia. I mean, you heard it. You heard when they were releasing and reviewing their Workers Deserve More platform, they started out by fantasizing about a day where you can finally live in freedom because you don't have to worry about going to work anymore. And you don't have to worry about going to work anymore because you don't have to worry about paying bills anymore. And you can just be what you want to be and who you want to be. It's narrative warfare. It's a lie, but it's narrative warfare. Pull that up for me.
It's a filthy lie. All right, here we go.
Oh, here's AOC.
Some DSAs
No, it's the other one.
have called themselves
The other one.
communist.
Yeah, we'll look at this one here in a little bit. It's AOC says no one cares about communism.
That was it.
No, it wasn't.
Oh, here it is. You're right.
When the DSA platform has also getting rid of the Supreme Court and getting rid of the presidency and restructuring
They're
the
having
government.
a party, aren't they, over there? They're having a blast. They're having a good time.
What do you think about the Supreme Court reform?
Sorry.
One of your colleagues tells me DSA is a communist organization. What do you make of that? How those words are used interchangeably on the right?
Just don't care. I think these folks call everyone they don't like a communist. I think that America is a free country. You know, they're out here palling around with whoever they want to pal around with. So what? Like, people can do what they want. I'm not here to be the belief police around here. But isn't there?
She doesn't want to be the belief police because she agrees with them wholeheartedly. But people think that AOC is a moron, and she may be a moron, but she is very well trained. Very well trained. She knows exactly.
Didn't she go to Cuba too?
Yes, of course she's part of that network.
Weird.
Which we'll be talking about next week, hopefully. The Cuba report that was released by the State Department. She's not an idiot. Well, she's an idiot, but she's very well trained to say the things that they need her to say when they need her to say them. It's not an accident that she's walking down the sidewalk just joking and laughing and, oh, it's not a big deal because they call everyone a communist. Just like we said last week, calling people a communist is no different than calling them a racist to these people and to most people. So we have to be very crisp. That's why we're referring to people now as confiscators. That's why we're referring to communism and socialism and the DSA as the politics of confiscation, because you have to frame for people exactly what these folks intend to do. We have to do it. SK, what are your thoughts on the bartender just brushing it off like, that's not a big deal. Let people be who they are. We're all free to be what we want to be.
Well, free is one of those words that, they test it out. And it's one of the words that you'll be hearing a lot along with liberty is freedom, but they don't tell you what type of freedom they're talking about.
What do they mean when they use the word freedom? We were talking about this in the green room because we Americans, we think of freedom and it's like we have freedom to pursue our hopes and our dreams, to pursue careers and pursue providing for our families, and we're not constrained by a government who tells us where to be, when to be, what we can spend our time doing. We're free to make those decisions. We're free to worship how we choose. We're free to not worship if we choose. That's what freedom means. What do they mean by the word freedom?
Well, I think they mainly mean like free to not go to work because you don't have to worry about your bills because you don't have any bills. I think there's two different types of freedom, and the freedom that they sell is like a freedom from responsibility type of situation, whereas when we think of freedom, we think of being free to have all of your rights that you have in this country. You're free to be whatever you want to be, do whatever you want to do, as long as you aren't breaking any laws or, infringing on anyone else's rights.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head when you said their version of freedom is freedom from responsibility. And it's freedom from the accountability that comes with choices that you make, right? Because freedom should come with responsibility. It should also come with dealing with the consequences of making decisions that you choose to make. And their utopian world, that is what they're promising to take care of. It's the responsibility portion of it. It's the accountability portion of it. It's the part where if things don't work the way that you plan for them to work, you might actually have to work a little bit harder in life to get where you want to be. They are removing the consequences of people making decisions to be free. And I'm sorry, but that's not freedom.
The only way that this works is if everybody is reduced to the lowest common denominator, because their version of freedom does not allow for Nam or SK or Patriot Dad to have the freedom to go and seek and produce as much as we possibly can for ourselves and for our families. Their version of freedom is they don't have to do anything. And then Nam and SK and Patriot Dad, we work and then they take it from us and they give it to them. That's not freedom for me at all. In fact, that's just theft. That's just theft. If you believe that you're going to carve out a society where a large portion of it can just decide, you know what, I don't really want to work anymore, but I don't have to worry about my bills anymore. Why don't they ever make the leap or even ask themselves the question, if I'm not paying my bills, who actually is going to pay my bills for me? Who's going to do it?
Well, it's because they see themselves as part of the population that will be on the receiving end of that productivity, not on the producing end of that productivity. But here's the problem with their theory. And we talked about this on Monday. The architecture of dependency, which is the result of the confiscation, the politics of confiscation, will always put us in a position where the people who are being confiscated from, they just stop producing. And then eventually you need to expand the breadth of the people that you go confiscate from, because there's not enough to confiscate from at the top anymore, because they've stopped producing, because there's no benefit for them. There's nothing that they get out of that exchange. So instead, they join the bottom half who says, well, I'm just going to live a life of freedom. Okay, great. So who's producing? Well, now you are, because we need more to confiscate from. And eventually you get to the point where there is no freedom at all, because everybody has to produce in order to be able to provide. There's no freedom, and you don't get to choose where you produce. You don't get to choose who you produce with. As a matter of fact, part of their system specifically requires you to produce in many places. Like, let's take universal healthcare, socialized medicine, for example. Their platform calls for making healthcare a right. Well, if you make something a right, then it becomes a responsibility of somebody else to provide it for you. They no longer have the choice or the freedom on whether or not they want to provide or produce that thing, because it is now your right to force them to. Do you see how this works?
Of course we do. We just created another slavery system, another system of slavery, where
right.
if you believe that you have a human right to something that requires the labor of another person, then you are essentially saying that their labor is yours. Because you're not paying for it, you believe that it is owed to you. The
Yep.
only way that that happens is if you steal from someone to fund or pay for that right, or that person gives it to you free, meaning
That's
they're your
right.
slave.
That's
They're
right.
just creating slavery all over again.
That's right. All right. Hey, SK, are you ready to be wound up and then let loose here? Because I think what we do now, go
Yeah.
ahead and pull up the language, not the language bridge. Pull up the PDF, which is I don't even see it on here.
I got it.
Where's it at? Yeah, pull up the PDF. Let's start here. I may need to put my glasses on for this one.
Before we go to that, I wanted to say, I had been looking at the freedom thing, and I couldn't remember when you said that. I couldn't remember the words that it was saying when talking about freedom. It talks about like freedom through collective provision, institutional trust, and removal of structural barriers. So again, like even borders, you're free because there's not even any borders, right? And it downplays redefining the term. And then it talks about how both sides claim the word freedom, but load it with different content. Positive liberty framing makes expansive government action appear as enhancing freedom rather than trading one form for another.
Oh, gee, that's gross. That is a gross bastardization.
Yeah.
It's the antithesis, because enhanced government action is the antithesis of freedom.
Right. And then formal negative liberties mean little without the real capacity to use them. Starving people or those systematically excluded from education are not meaningfully free in practice because you don't have access to free education or free healthcare. So you aren't actually free. And it talks about,
again, slavery.
yeah, and it talks about capability-focused approaches have produced measurable gains in health, literacy, and opportunity in many contexts. Remember, a whole bunch of Democrats praised Castro in Cuba because of his education programs. Because, yeah, they might be starving, but they had this crazy good education system.
Did they?
Apparently, according to what the Democrats say.
Well, they also say that Cuba has the shining beacon on the hill for a healthcare system.
Right.
So I mean,
yeah, I mean, if of course the power remains on and it doesn't shut down for a week at a time, and people die in hospital beds because their power's out because you're a communist country and you don't know how to manage your resources.
Right.
No guarding, not that kind of freedom. You don't have that's not the type of freedom they're talking about. Can a parent choose to not have their child vaccinated? Absolutely not. That is not freedom.
No, because that is dangerous to everybody else's freedom.
But it also goes on to talk about how it introduces definitional power. Like, who determines what counts as true freedom or necessary enabling conditions? And this could historically risk sliding into justifications or coercion or collectivist control. Because again, that's another thing they do. They say that individualism is one of the things that's in the way of the collectivism. And what they want you to do is think in terms of what is best for the collective. There aren't individual freedoms, right?
Oh, it's collective freedom, not individual freedom.
Exactly.
I got it. Which is basically not freedom. Because if you're not free to be an individual, guess what? You're not free. You're not free. All right, SK, what is this thing that we're looking at here?
Okay, here, let me get it pulled up because I can't see that. That's too little.
I'll bring it up. We're going to do full screen, but give us an idea of what lead us into this.
So this is the Narrative Initiative. That's the organization. And it talks about they call it waves. This is the model for deep narrative change. And it talks about how there's a complex relationship between values, narratives, and stories. The model borrows from the work of Grassroots Policy Project and Perception Institute. And Perception Institute is John Powell. And if you've been around here for a while, you've heard about John Powell. That's the Othering and Belonging Institute that he's involved with. He's involved with lots of things. But it also says, in others, working at the intersection of advocacy, strategic communications, and the operation of ideology. Narrative Initiative was established in early 2017 on the heels of a presidential election. We witnessed how Trump's social media activity kept advocates in dismay and too often in disarray. We asked, how do we make sense of this dynamic? How do we become less reactive? Imagine floating in the middle of a vast stormy ocean. Swells emerge from seemingly nowhere. We are tossed and turned by the churn of waves. Trump's tweets, both constant and unpredictable, keep us disoriented on the ocean's surface. But waves are generated by currents beneath the surface. Their power is sourced from below, just as the tweets draw from less viable narratives to deliver meaning. This is, of course, how dog whistles function. Tapping deeper meaning, just as waves are generated through currents. And the deeper the currents, the more powerful and enduring they can be, functioning like worldviews and ideology. White supremacy drives racist narratives, drives dog whistle tweets.
There it is. There it is. That's how you know the entire thing that you just read is total fucking garbage.
Yeah. Does that have any more on there, or did it
Racist-
only send the first page?
That's a,
No,
well,
no,
there's a
I've
lot
got-
more.
I've got.
Oh, okay.
I can,
Just
I
making
can do
sure.
the whole. Yeah, I can do the whole slide deck, the whole PDF, page by page. Are we going to
Let's-
read every page, all page?
We
the
don't
entire
have
page
to
of
read
everyone?
every
Okay.
page, but I do want people to see this graphic, and I want people to understand that they even say, you know, like several years ago, we took this model and translated it into trainings to support social justice leaders in the UK, South Africa, and beyond.
And now you know why you've got a Muslim invasion happening in the UK, and nobody's
Right.
allowed to talk about it because the Waves training program has taught them how to silence those voices who would be, you know, digging up dog whistles by pointing out that you're raping our children.
Well, the way that they decided that they would deal with that is they would throw the people who are complaining about it in jail while they let the actual rapists go free. That's the inversion of reality. I'm assuming that's what they mean by freedom. So, all of you white middle class British people whose 250,000 of your little white daughters that were raped by 13,000 Pakistani men, you have the freedom to shut up or go to jail. That's the freedom they're talking about.
Yeah, but the Pakistani men have all the freedom in the world,
right?
Because you don't want to offend anybody with a dog whistle. You know,
I don't think it's a dog whistle. Say stop raping our daughters. That's
no,
not
it
a dog.
is. It says it
could
right
actually
there.
be a threat. It should be a threat.
It says it right there. It's a dog whistle. Calling in.
Yeah.
If you go back to page 1, calling in. Look, it says their power is sourced from below, just as the tweets draw from less visible narratives. It says this is, of course, how dog whistles function. So speaking truth is how dog whistles form.
So in their world, in their narrative, this is narrative warfare, as SK said over and over and over again. And their fight in this narrative war that we're involved in, saying true things is a dog whistle.
That's right.
It's a racist dog whistle too, because we're istophobic phobophobes, as you know.
Yes. On the next page, it gets. This is
Page
where
3?
you really, this is where you really need to pay attention.
get
Where it
into it.
says number 1, it says we seek durable change in the deepest currents possible, values and worldview. And what have we told you about values? They're trying to change people's values, not only faith and things like that. They're trying to change values along with worldview. Narrative is a level of strategic intervention. Narrative is a starting point to anchor our efforts in the depth of change we seek. Number 2, currents are dynamic, swirling, and often contradictory. So are worldviews, which contain competing, often oppositional ideas. U.S. identity, for example, simultaneously prioritizes individualism and communitarianism, the Marlboro Man and barn raising, idolizing the star player and sacrificing for the team.
I don't know.
Unbelievable.
I don't know what that shit means. I don't
Well,
know.
think about it. You have a star player that everyone idolizes, but
Yeah.
everybody has to understand sacrificing for the team. So the team is all working together. Messi doesn't just go out there and play alone, even though Messi's the star player. The whole team is sacrificing in order to be able to make Messi the star player.
So essentially what they're saying is the problem. The currents are dynamic, swirling up, blah, blah, blah. US, so the identity that they're trying to break, is from what I'm understanding, is that US identity, for example, simultaneously prioritizes individualism and communitarianism. So they're essentially trying to break that completely, that sort of, legacy historical view of how we operate. Like you want to work hard, you want to put the work in to become the star player, but at the same time, you have to work as a team. That's what they're trying to break. I don't understand.
It's a hegemony.
What's wrong with that? It's hegemony.
It's the American culture. It is the Americanism, the hegemony that they need to break. Look, you can't implement a system that is based on the lowest common denominator when you have people thinking that they're individuals. We talked about this on Monday. There's a reason why they refer to everybody as workers. It's because they need you to think as though you are equal and no better than anybody else, regardless of what you bring to the table, in order for you to fit into their system. They have to break your individual hegemony. They have to destroy this idea that you are instead a mother, a father, a husband, a wife, a daughter, a lawyer, a manager, the things that make you uniquely you. That has to be destroyed, because that individualism is a cancer to collectivism.
Let me help you understand this a little bit more by the next paragraph. It says, the model, which is this model we're talking about right here, has expanded as we've used it in other settings and contexts. Narrative Initiative and partners have used waves in trainings and on research into the Green New Deal, COVID-19, Black Lives Matter, and other narrative projects.
Wow.
So I know we mentioned this in the green room, but you're essentially saying that these are the people who came up with the approved narrative that we were allowed to speak during COVID-19 and during Black Lives Matter. And what was the other one?
The language around Green New Deal.
So that's amazing. That's amazing. These guys just admitted that they were the driving force for what is an acceptable narrative and what wasn't during COVID-19. And we all know what happened if you didn't repeat the acceptable narrative during COVID-19, right? And Black Lives Matter.
You no longer had freedom to post on social media anymore. You no longer had freedom to walk in public unless you were willing to announce your solidarity with Black Lives Matter.
But this is again how you have to see the whole big picture, because this is a lot of people working together in order to achieve the goals that they had. But and remember, they refer to populism a lot when they're talking about these things, because they're pushing pluralism. This is the new pluralists. This is the mediators. This is Listen First Project. This is the bridging movement. This is the entire ecosystem that we've been talking about. Every part of the ecosystem works together.
I have maybe a foundational question for you. I see in this list of Waves involvement in what obviously are radical left-wing ideologies, Green New Deal, the lie narratives around COVID-19, Black Lives Matter. How come I don't see Waves being deployed to help people understand things like Project 2025, or to help people understand a constitutional republic, and to remove some of the extremes that challenge the ability of a constitutional republic to, provide freedoms for people? Why is it that these guys are only focused on smoothing out the radical edges of people who oppose the left-wing narrative?
Well, I would say it's probably because they have to change the culture. You have to remember that immigration is included into all of this. There's an entire narrative, PDFs, multiple from different organizations on the narrative and the language to use around immigration, because again, they had to have immigration to make this work. Just like with C-19, they have to guilt you. They have to say, well, you're going to kill your grandma. You don't care about the old people in this country. If you don't do this, then the old people are going to die and it's going to be your fault. You know, think about DSA's platform. The Green New Deal is part of their platform. And what is it? Racial justice. This is the racial justice. Black Lives Matter is the racial justice that's carried on. They just don't call it Black Lives Matter anymore. They call it racial justice.
Because it turns out Black Lives Matter as an organization was just stealing people's money. So they've got to separate themselves from that while they still do the same work. Got it.
Because the work is important to their overall agenda. The organization was just
stealing money is very important. We're right. Yes.
Well, right. True. I mean, they are confiscators after all. But that the organization was a vehicle to help them implement their objective, but they're disposable, just like LGBT community members who are now going to be disposable as we see more and more of this implemented. Because you can't, remember, folks, you can't have an unholy alliance between radical Islam and the LGBT community, at least not for very long.
Well, I mean, I think I know the timing wasn't right for that, but it's already happening.
Yeah.
The LGBT community is now officially disposable. That's probably a good time to bring this up. So this right here is Melissa Chaudhry. She's a Democratic congressional candidate in Washington's 9th district, and she has acknowledged that she does not publicly promote the LGBTQ plus rights on her campaign website because she does not want to alienate Muslim voters. She doesn't want to alienate Muslim voters. And she goes on. So apparently that sparks some backlash with the LGBTQ community, as you can imagine, but apparently not that big of a backlash because they're better leftists than they are gay rights activists. And they're not quite ready to admit that they're getting ready to get shoved down the intersectionality pyramid a few rungs, but I don't mean shoved, I mean literally tossed off the top of it, like they would a high-rise building in Gaza, or what is considered to be Palestine. So apparently that sparked some outrage, where you had one guy, part of the Washington Stonewall Democrats, which is a gay Democrat organization, who said, our community is not expendable. And she said, no, yeah, you are. You're expendable. She said, if you are queer, your rights are safe with me, is what Chaudhry later said. However, she cannot be seen to be sympathizing or at least promoting LGBTQ plus rights when she is trying to court Muslim voters. So, I mean, I hope these folks are paying attention, even though we know they're not. We've been telling them this since October 7th of 2023, that you can get out in the streets and you can protest and riot on behalf of Hamas. But really what they want to do is throw you off of a building and kill you or stone you to death.
SK, help me here, because I'm not quite understanding the statement from whatever her name is. How is it possible that LGBTQ rights could be safe with somebody who's afraid to acknowledge them to the voters that she's courting? How does that work? How exactly does that work? Like, don't worry, I can't talk to these people about you because I know you want to throw them off of buildings, but your rights are safe with me, I promise you. How does that fly?
I don't have any idea how this flies, but somehow, again, they've convinced people, these white liberal people, mostly females, but also males, that, you have to be accommodating to all of these people. That's also part, I would say, of the interfaith arm of all of this, because you aren't allowed to be like loud and proud about your faith. But you have to be accommodating and allow everyone else to be loud and proud about their faith, because again, Christianity is getting suppressed. Just like for the longest time, the target was white males. So now in all this narrative stuff, they've gone back and they've been like, okay, we messed up here. We need to walk this back a little bit because we have white males now that are prone to violence because they've been suppressed and told that they're the problem, and they've been playing video games and getting in these groups, and then they get radicalized and then they commit violence. Even though a lot of the data is coming from people like SPLC, who was involved in creating these issues and, you know, fomenting this violence. And then they point at the violence and say, look, there's the problem.
Well, realistically, and this has been floating all over social media recently, the last week or so, really what's happening, because there's a lot of that going on, but predominantly, and I think it started under Biden, is they just started classifying a lot of Black people and Hispanic and Latino people as white when they're committing these crimes.
It's
I mean,
been
it's all
going
over
on
the
for
place.
a very
Yeah.
long time. There's an account I've been following the entire time I've been on X that's in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and they frequently post all of the people that have been arrested that have been listed as white. There will be like the darkest skin that you can possibly imagine, and it'll say white.
Yeah. I want to go back. I'm not done with Melissa Chaudhry, because I did just find another quote that she made, and I have a question before I ask this. Are Muslims homophobic?
I mean,
I'm going to ask.
No, because it's part of their religion. This is what they believe as a part of their religion, so it's not homophobic.
It's a deeply
just
held
what they
religious belief.
It's a deeply held religious belief.
Gay people off of buildings.
It's a deeply held religious belief to oppose homosexuality as a Muslim. That doesn't make them homophobic or hateful or far right, but if a Christian has a deeply held Christian belief and they oppose homosexuality, that doesn't apply, because when she's asked, her campaign is asked why it lacked references to the LGBTQ plus rights, despite saying she supports them. Chaudhry replied, because a lot of Muslims do not feel that way, unfortunately. It is unfortunate to her that Muslims do not agree with LGBTQ issues. In fact, in a lot of Muslim countries, they'll kill you over it. So her own principles of supporting those rights take a back seat to the Muslims that don't support those rights. I just want everybody to understand this is the very first sort of view in real time of how this is going to play out.
Yeah,
and I hope
that's exactly right.
Hope the LGBT people and Jews, listen, there are, and I posted this earlier, there are thousands, tens of thousands, potentially millions of Jews across this country that are liberal Democrats, whose lives are getting ready to get a whole lot worse, especially in New York City. We just saw 2 Jewish men get stabbed in the back and in the chest by someone who yelled "Aloha snack bar" today.
That's right.
Today alone. Right. So
that's right.
I'm gonna get right with this.
I'm gonna try to get us back on track here and do it in a way. Put that back up real quick and do it in a way that hopefully takes us back to the narrative that we're trying to talk through here. What I'm struggling with here is, why is it that these, and SK, I don't know, maybe you've explained it, I just haven't grasped it yet, but why is it that all of the effort to smooth out the radical edges are only ever targeted at people like us? Like, why is there no effort from these organizations to say, hey, it is not acceptable, Muslim voters, for you to want to throw gay people off of buildings? Like, that doesn't seem to bother them whatsoever.
They're trying to shift the window, just like when we talk about the bridging movement, and we like the local boots on the ground bridging movement with like Braver Angels and the living room conversations and all those things that we've talked about a million times. They say it's reds and blues that they're bringing together to have these conversations so they can understand each other and be able to communicate better and have less contempt in their speech and, more dignity. That's one of the words that they use, and unity and all these pretty words, right? Well, that's not what they actually do. It's modeled after couples therapy. And what they're doing is they're trying to take the red team and move their views further to the blue team.
Oh,
So
I see.
instead
So
of
it's
them
like,
being over here, they're going to move them over here. It's like in couples therapy when they're generally trying to kind of find the person that is more willing to adapt. Like one person's usually more set in their ways and they're like, hard-headed. And if you're a marriage counselor, a couples counselor, and you're trying to keep the couple together, you're going to have to figure out how to get one person to move farther to the other person's view, and you're going to see which person's easier to move. Well, the red team is the side that's easier to move because, again, if you look at the ideals between the left and the right, they have their beliefs, their ideals, their platform, if you will, whatever it is, their opinions, their political views are in a tight circle of points. Like if they're dots with lines connecting them, they're in a tiny circle. Their beliefs aren't all over the place.
yeah.
But when you go to the right side, when you go to the Republican side, the circle is really big with tons of points because I don't know anyone that I completely 100% agree with on politics 100% of the time because we all have different views on different things. We might agree on 95% of it all the time, but that other 5%, those dots are all over the place. It's not like that on the left because if you disagree, you can't sit with them anymore.
That's
You
right.
can't sit here. You can't play with us. You can't sit
Seats
here.
taken. Seats taken. Yep.
You're not
Yep.
welcome. And by the way, can I just say before we move off of this, whoever this person is, are you guys familiar with the term taqiyya?
Yep.
Taqiyya, which is basically the right of a Muslim to be able to lie in order to further their objective. When this woman stands in front of people and says, even though Muslim voters may want to throw you off of buildings, I don't. Either she's saying, I'm not a Muslim, or I'm lying to you and I will help to throw you off of buildings also because that's what my religion tells me to do.
I'm not sure that's entirely accurate because there's a lot of Muslims who don't want to throw them off the building. I think what she is saying, though, is she doesn't have enough principles to stand up and say, even though because in Seattle, where I think it's Seattle, in Seattle, the Muslim community makes up about 2% of the population, while the LGBTQ plus community makes up about 17% of the population.
Really?
So she is happy to take the side of the 2% over the side of the 17% because, as SK I think mentioned it, I think what SK was saying is accurate. She knows that the LGBTQ community will move closer to the Muslims. They won't budge. The Islamic community will not budge on this belief. So they believe that one, they'll either just ignore it and they'll continue to vote for her because vote blue no matter who, even though how stupid it is. They'll move those 17% to the 2%, and then the 2% will end up killing the 17%.
Yeah, I think you're right. That's right. I think you're probably right about that analysis. I think that is spot on. All right, SK. So we have some other stuff on here. This language bridgy stuff. What the hell?
Are we done with the PDF? Is there more?
I think that's it on the PDF, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it. It's just an article. That was just an article.
That's a good one. So what is this language bridgy stuff? In the folder, you have like 35 screenshots. We're only going to look at a few of them.
Well, some of them are from other ones. There are multiple different. But remember how I've told you guys multiple times that they do studies. The PACE, I think this actually might be from PACE. Or it could be from the bridging. Actually, I think the Bridgie 2.0 is what they call it or whatever. That could be done by PACE. Now I'm all confused because there are so many and I've looked at so many since Monday, when I started revisiting all this again, because I've told you guys that they do studies on which words are best to be used. And here's just a little graphic that they have in one of these reports. These reports, some of them are hundreds of pages long. They talk about, active civic engagement. It says an informed, engaged citizenry works with government officials at all levels to solve problems impacting the common good and holds them accountable for delivering results. And then you have responsive, effective institutions, government bodies at all levels enact reforms that create better feedback loops between public officials and citizens and improve their ability to deliver results. and you have unifying civic narratives. Stories of government and citizens collaborating boost commitment to democratic norms and confidence that change is possible, spurring Americans to get engaged in public life. And you'll see throughout all of these things, they talk a lot about storytelling. Even with America 250, there's the stories across America. There's all this stuff about stories. When it comes to this whole bridging movement, stories is one of the main themes through all this. They want you to tell stories and be engaged with each other. And this right here is just talking about telling stories about the government being effective. And what's crazy is they call the right authoritarian, but at the same time, they're telling the left the government is effective and we are, the government is capable of controlling all of these things and taking control of all of this. But they're not going to control you. They're just going to control the oligarchs and the millionaires and the billionaires and the companies. They're not going to actually control you. It's not really authoritarian.
Yeah. So I'm in theory, when you read this, right? Active civic engagement and informed engaged citizenry works with government officials at all levels to solve problems. Yeah. Responsive, effective institutions, government bodies at all levels enact reforms to create better feedback loops. Unifying civic narratives. I mean, in theory, this is all agreeable stuff until you understand how they're co-opting language to get you, someone like me, to say, "Oh, I agree. I actually agree with that. That's actually very reasonable." That's the bridgy stuff you're talking about. Until you understand that the changes and the norms and the civic engagement that they're talking about is the implementation of confiscation and thievery. And if you don't go along with it, jail or death, right? That's pretty good. When I first read it, I'm like, oh, I don't actually disagree with that. And I'm like, stop it. You know what they're doing. You know exactly what they're doing to you.
A lot of this stuff sounds good, but then when you hear them, I think it takes actually hearing them sit in these meetings and talk about these things before you realize how diabolical it really is. Because most Americans, and that's, if we could pull up one of the PDFs, if we just pulled up the bridging PDF, that would probably be better because you can scroll through it really fast. But if you can just see that a lot of the things that they say are things that we all want, which is what they're looking for. This study is literally trying to find the words that most Americans identify with and react positively to. And then they want to combine these words that most Americans feel have positive responses to, and they want to combine them with other words so it kind of dilutes the word behind it because they're stuck on this word.
Well, you're right. And while Nam's looking for that PDF, you may need to give him a little help finding it.
What's it called? What's the name of it? Yes, guys.
Well, I think there might be Bridgie. I think it says Bridgie 2.0 is the latest one. Is it in your folder? It's in the one, yes, that says language manipulation.
Okay, so while he's looking for that, SK, can you, and I think this is a really good segue, because what this document is it kind of talks about the output of some of their studies, right? So it talks about democracy remains a strong and broadly embraced term, but how we talk about it is important. So they're going so deep in these studies that they're trying to figure out, like, how exactly can we use these words or this language to convince people that we're speaking to them on their level, even though we're taking them in our direction.
Oh, yeah. And let me tell you this. I was looking right before we went live because, democracy gives me like an actual physical reaction when I hear the word democracy. And it says only 8%. So clearly not enough people are watching this podcast. But it says with only 8% expressing negative views of the word democracy. And then in one of the things that I was reading, it wasn't this document, but it was a different thing talking about democracy and the people that have negative views to it. They were trying to twist that negative view of democracy into somehow being super supportive of like total authoritarianism and dictators, which is not true. The reason I have a negative reaction when I hear democracy is because the people that are using the word democracy the way that they are the people that want to be the authoritarians and want to seize your private property and want to seize the means of production and have an abundance economy and a well-being economy and distribute all the resources equitably. And it makes me gag.
I mean, I'll just be more blunt. The reason why the term democracy gives me stomach aches these days is because I fully understand that they have rephrased this word, or at least some radical elements. Democracy to them is socialism. They believe socialism is democracy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can't extract the two from each other.
They want to take away the electoral college, so there won't be representation for the majority of the country. It'll only be huge big cities where all of the super progressive liberals live. And so there will be taxation without representation because none of us will have representation in the middle of the country or in the rural areas. And then they want to abolish the Senate. And that's not just DSA. That's Democracy 2076. That this abolished the Senate thing has been being talked about for quite a while. They want to strip
going back
power
over
from
100 years. They've been talking about it.
Yes. And they want to add more people to the House of Representatives and again give the rural areas less representation. When you look at how they talk about this, they talk about, I can't remember the state they use. I think they use Wyoming. And they're like, why does Wyoming get the exact same representation in the Senate that California or Texas or Florida does? Well, hello, it's because the Senate is representing the states. There are 2 representatives from each of the 50 states, which equals 100 senators. That's how your state gets represented in the federal government. But they don't understand this. Well, the ones that understand
they understand.
They just are telling the people that don't understand, this is bad because it's giving more power to this tiny state that doesn't have as many people. They just want pure direct democracy. Is when they say democracy, they're talking about you vote and majority rules. Mob rule, which is exactly what our founding fathers warned against.
50.1% can essentially vote to kill and eat 49.9%. That's what they want. And they perfectly 100% understand that the purpose of the Senate is to prevent that from happening. Because if we had nothing but the House of Representatives, that's where we'd be. So you're right. They use the word democracy intentionally because the other part of this that they're fighting against is the representative republic, right? So I don't know. So Guarding's got something he wants us to play. It probably fits here. I'm going to play it real quick, and then we'll come back to I got that other PDF, the Bridgie PDF. So let's play this. Let's see what Guarding's got to say. It's supposed to fit in here nicely, and then let's all react to it because I haven't seen it yet. Oh, it's a web of psychological control, how communist tactics reinforce each other. Leaders evaluated, cult of personality, propaganda, historical revisionism, fear and terror, informant networks, scapegoating, thought control, informant networks, collective punishment, thought control, isolation, dehumanization, fear and terror.
It's a cult. It's literally a cult.
Yeah. This is how cults form.
Yes, this is exactly cult behavior. This is how cults form. This is how you get trapped in a cult. Isolation, fear and terror, thought control. Yes. Scapegoating.
Like, did you know in East Germany, at the height of what was going on over there, the Stasi, they had one informant for every 63 East German citizens or workers, as it were. Mm-hmm. That's how it went on as long as it did, because every hallway, every corner, every closet had an informant, and they're watching, waiting to destroy you, which is precisely what is going to happen here. I mean, we are, how many times did we have during COVID-19 were you told, call the police if your neighbors aren't wearing their masks? I mean, our kids had the police called on when they were playing in a green space next to our house, like during the summer. Literally, someone called the police on them. A beautiful day outside, and they had the police called on them because they weren't wearing their masks and they were playing outside.
They were in Minnesota. They had their hotline, and they were literally encouraging people to call the hotline and tell on your neighbors if they were having family gatherings for the holidays, kids' birthday parties, any get-togethers at their house. You needed to call and tattle. This is the type of control that they want. They point to Trump and the Republicans as being authoritarian, and he's a dictator and all of this. But if I recall, the only time in my entire 43 years of life that I've ever even witnessed somebody being asked for their papers and them being a US citizen and it being actual papers was to be able to get into restaurants or to participate in society with a vaccine card. Thank God I live in a red state. My kids never one time put a mask on their face. We didn't have to do any of that stuff because we live in a red state, and everyone here said, we're not doing that. If we die, we die.
By the way, under democracy, the democracy that they plan, you won't be living in a red state anymore, folks. You won't have governors that get to make decisions on local issues anymore. All of that goes away. You don't get to have a Florida where people can move to and have lower taxes. You don't get to have an Oklahoma or an Ohio where Ohio took a little longer. You don't get to have an Oklahoma where someone like SK doesn't have to wear a mask into a grocery store. Instead, you live in a democratic, disastrous nightmare where people in New York City are telling you on the other side of the country that you have to put a mask on. That's the world that you're going to live in.
Thousands of miles away. Yes.
Because apparently the virus from New York City is going to make its way to you in Oklahoma, and it's still going to make it through the mask because we know that,
if you can smell your fart.
Through your britches.
Folks, and I know you guys get this. This audience understands it, but those you guys that are just catching on, you have to understand the reason why they need the Senate to go is because they need to break down the sovereignty of the state. That's the whole purpose of the individual states cannot be sovereign states anymore. You can be, and they don't even talk about states in their documents. They talk about regions. They don't talk about individual states anymore. You get to have regional representation. You don't get to have a state at all. It's gone because there's no purpose for it in their reconstituted constitution.
Well, and I've been telling you guys from the very beginning of this podcast that they want to change the Constitution. They want to completely change our political structure. They want to change all of these things. And you're seeing it now. I'm a little bit surprised that it happened to be brought to everyone's attention from the DSA releasing their platform, because I've always just been of the belief that, the socialists and communists were the cuckoo bird in the nest, and they were just going to completely take over the Democrat Party. And it's like the DSA said, enough is enough. It's like they think that they can get enough of the people away. It's like the Tea Party movement, but for the Democrats, and obviously opposite values. But you get what I'm saying? When we had the Tea Party movement, it kind of broke the Republican Party. But when the Republican Party reformed, it reformed into MAGA and this great movement that brought in the best of, the best of the views. It brought in the liberty and freedom of the Tea Party movement and low taxes and all those things. And it also brought in the, well, I guess states get to choose on abortion, but you get what I'm saying? Some of the older Republican
it brought in
values.
Mike Lee. I mean, it gave us Mike Lee. It gave us Ted Cruz, who was great for a while, maybe not so much anymore. It gave us those people. Those are the offshoots of.
I can't be the only one that thinks about the Addams family every single time somebody says Ted Cruz, because that widow's peak, you cannot convince me that he's not a part of that family.
That's hilarious. No, I mean, SK, you're absolutely right. It almost feels like the DSA is tired of waiting. Like they have been working in the background for a very long time. I mean, they talk openly about how excited they are that their membership went from a few thousand to over 100,000. And as soon as it hit that 100,000 point, and they were able to get a couple of elections in key places, it's like they said, now it's time to go. It's time to move, because they have been breaking the cultural hegemony in the background through the education system, through social media, through propaganda for so long that all it took was just a couple of sparks to say, now's our time. And if you'll notice, they were doing all this at the, they were doing all this at the exact same time that they were trashing people like Schumer in the Senate, and they were destroying the leadership of the Democrat Party all over the place. Those were the targets for the last year and a half, 2 years. You had AOC out there destroying Chuck Schumer on a daily basis. They have literally been dehumanizing the leadership of the Democrat structure. At the same time, they were building up their ranks of their crazy lunatic candidates who won. They're ready to roll. That's the bottom line. They're ready to move.
But is the country ready for them? Is my question. Did they fire out of the blocks a little bit too soon? We're going to find out. It's going to be interesting.
Well, listen, everybody needs to understand, just like you were saying in the background, and you're referring to like the socialists and communists, they is the Democrat Party. The whole ecosystem we've been talking about. You've got all of your establishment Democrats. You've got everyone that's ever been associated with Obama. You've got everyone that's ever been associated with Biden. You've got all of the Clinton people. And granted, there are some differences. I never in a million years thought that I would say either one of the Clintons were more moderate. But truthfully, if you look at the big picture, like the Clinton type Democrats are the moderates. They're actually like the sane ones right now, which is absolutely wild to say out loud. But they're the sane ones. And you have the Biden, which his presidency, he was Obama 2.0 for obvious reasons, because he wasn't the president. But Biden prior to that was sort of, he wasn't a complete nut job on the very far left. Obama is where things shifted. But this whole ecosystem has been doing the bidding of the Democrat Party. And as much as they want you to believe right now that the DSA and the things that they're saying is fringe, that this is just the fringe part of the party, that is not true at all.
No,
Everything that's
you're right.
being done in the schools and has been done in the universities and in our churches and in our local government and our state government and literally in every aspect of your life that we've talked about with this ecosystem, this is the Democrats. This is the left. And this is what they believe. They just try to hide it very well behind we are moderate. We're not really as radical as you think we are.
I mean, you're spot on. You're absolutely right. The base of the Democrat Party are, in fact, confiscators. That's what they are.
Yeah.
Mostly because that's all that's left. And this is the reason why they have to continue to try to import new voters and put them on the voting rolls and try to figure out how to get them to vote, because they need people to confiscate for. But they're confiscators. That's what they are. That's what they've always been. Now you have the Hillary Clintons of the world, who was more interested in confiscating for herself than she is for other people. And she figured out how to do that through the system instead of just taking it. She figured out how to work with inside the apparatus to enrich herself. So yeah, of course, she's probably freaking out a little bit now. I mean, if she can't necessarily, because she knows that her time is limited if she goes too far, because they will remove her. I mean, she will be moved off stage permanently if the DSA makes a decision that she's not helpful for them anymore.
Well, and Hillary Clinton is a globalist. Yeah. I mean, an internationalist, as they like to say now, to try to make it sound nicer, since globalism became such a nasty word. You know, these are all globalists. They don't look at anything as a state's right or an individual right. And when they say collective, they aren't talking about just Americans. They're talking about the entire globe. And they're the, part of the Democrat Party at this point in time truly want to get rid of borders. They don't even want there to be borders, which, how do you have a country if you don't have borders? Like, I can't even, and then the libertarians, this is another thing. The libertarians are the exact same as the socialists and communists right now.
Oh yeah,
The
there are Marxist libertarians now.
they've
That's what they are.
literally used, and I found something the other day. I'll have to go back and look to see where I found it, but I found something the other day that was talking about the plan to use the Libertarian Party. They were saying that the Libertarian Party has been, supporting the right side of the aisle for a while because in recent times, the right side of the aisle has been the one that has been more about individual liberties and, very in favor of capitalism and all of these things. The libertarians now, they aren't even necessarily cheering for capitalism anymore.
Nope. No, it's because it's because they've been butthurt largely, because they have somehow been convinced. Look, the losertarians have been wholly brainwashed by Tucker Carlson. He's got them. He's got them hook, line, and sinker. He's going to take them off of cliffs, take them straight into radical Islam, straight into radical leftism, because that's where he lives these days, because that's where the grift is. The libertarians don't believe in anything, mostly because everything that they've believed in has failed. Make no mistake, folks, libertarianism is globalism. It is the reason why our economy was hollowed out and gutted, is because they were driving a lot of the narrative around domestic and foreign or international economic policy. It is the Australian or the Austrian economic schools that gave us free trade, that gave us global trade. That's where it comes from.
Larry, I just happened to see that out of my corner. I have no idea because it doesn't show up on the screen up here, but I pulled YouTube up on my phone a second ago and I just had my phone sitting here. I wasn't paying attention. It popped up with this like goat trophy thing.
Oh, so we're doing
on
that
YouTube.
now.
I don't know how it works, but it looked really cool. Thank you.
Yeah, we can't see it in ours, but apparently they can see it.
Very cool.
Yeah, I mean, can only see it on my phone.
The libertarian wing has made a decision that they are throwing their hat in with the radical left. It's clear, because their economic ideas have failed. And they know that the Trump administration is moving away from free trade. They're moving away from internationalism, which is what libertarianism is. The Trump administration is moving in the direction of an American system, which, like it or not, is not free trade. It is a system that's specifically designed to focus on the American economy by setting up cooperative relationships where it makes sense with countries who want to be friendly and want to cooperate without hollowing out our manufacturing base, without hollowing out the middle class of this country. And that's what libertarianism did. It hollowed out our country from top to bottom. It sent all of our productivity overseas. And they still have not been forced to answer for that yet. So that's why they're tucking tail and running, because they know they're going to have to.
Yeah. So we've got that side of the argument, or the American system that's being set up, and then on the other side, since it's probably a good time to do it, we've got the other side that is the Borg. And someone, it may have even been Patriotic Critical Thinker on Monday, who said, I am number 5 of 10. We are the Borg. This is who these people are, right? You will be assimilated. Resistance is futile. That's who we're dealing with. So that was a little super chat. I thought it was timely to pull it up there.
Do you want to pull up the 2.0 document real quick, and we can go through that, and then we can maybe look at some videos that maybe resonate with this topic?
We have a super chat too.
Let's do those. Wow, it looks like we got a bunch.
No, we just did one we only had one super chat. I just did it.
I don't know. We got all these gems in here. So
yeah, but you can't. The gems are they're the trophy things that we can't see. We can't see them.
Oh, I see. We're going to have to research how these gems work, because I have no idea.
You can only see them on YouTube.
Got it. All right. What's Bridgie 2.0?
We don't have the right libraries to see them on here. All right. Here's Bridgie 2.0.
All righty. So PACE, again, make note of all the people and organizations involved. Oh, and I did want to say really quick before I forgot, somebody said something about the funding and how the left, has always been so well funded. And, the DSA, the Democrat Party has been more than happy to take the DSA's money, whatever it was the comment said. I want you to understand that just the Arabella Advisors umbrella of donor advised funds, I think there's 4 or 5. I can't remember all of the names off the top of my head. It's either 4 or 5. They took in more money during the last election cycle than the entirety of the Democrat, the DNC, and the RNC combined. And remember, Kamala's budget, she spent $1.2 billion or something. I think the total raised given out through the Arabella Advisors Network was like $2.4 billion. So it's not just the NGOs. And you mentioned, Neville Roy Singham and Soros and things like that, which Soros does kind of put some money through there, but that's another thing. But the Arabella Advisors umbrella of donor advised funds, that is all the foundations. That some of it's even tax dollars that go through the foundations and then into the donor advised funds. There's tons and tons and tons of money that flows through the donor advised funds, and they don't have to disclose who told them to give it to which organization.
Mm-hmm.
They are the stopper between the donation and the person that receives it. You know that this person made a donation to this organization, and you know that this organization made a donation down here, but you don't know who did what.
So this is the money laundering scheme. If you think about it from a financial transaction, they basically sit as a money laundering operation. Maybe legal.
Cute.
It
That
may
was
be
an
legal.
eagle.
They're a 501c4. And so we already know those. So based on that symposium that they held last week about, this foreign money and leftist violence and all that stuff that's going on, we know from Scott Bessent that, a lot of these NGOs and these 501c4s and 3s that are doing this are getting ready to lose their tax exempt status if they are found to have been funneling money or moving money to things that are not charitable, and they ended up causing damage or violence or whatever. If they've committed fraud in their 501c3 and 501c4 filings, they're getting ready to lose their tax exempt status, and they're going to have to pay all of those back taxes. So I think there's some serious pain coming for a lot of these folks. And I would
Holy
love to
cow,
see
when you click on the little GIF box at the bottom of the screen where the comment box is on YouTube, it comes up and it's just like on TikTok. It has a whole GIF gallery. I didn't know that.
Cool.
I'm gonna have to go back and watch it. I want to see some of these things pop up because we don't see them.
How to
there
talk
anymore.
Bridgie 2.0. Did you want to flip through this?
If you want to, you can. I think some of the little graphics with like the words and where they rate I think it's important for them to see just how much they put into this. And this is just one out of lots of different studies. And then all of these organizations use these studies to go forward. Here you go. There was the civic terms in 2025. These are the terms that were surveyed. They said American, authoritarian, belonging, checks and balances, citizen, civic engagement, civility, community, constitution, democracy, diversity, freedom, law and order, liberty, patriotism, pluralism, prosperity, racial equity, service, social justice, and unity.
So what year was this?
This is 2025. This just came out in this year, sometime this year.
Crazy. If you think back over the last year and a half or so.
Well, look at the other. They've done it several years. See, the 2 stars indicates tested in 2021 and 2023, and 1 star indicates it was just tested in 2023.
And if you look back over the last year or so, literally every single one of these words, it's like they were pushed out into the psychological operations. You heard the Harry Sisson start to use very specific language. You heard all the social media influencers that were coming down from Chorus Media and all of the propaganda platforms all started using those words at almost exactly the same time. It's like Dan Bongino's been talking about for the last several days. It's all been a psychological operation on social media, all of it.
Yeah,
from the words they use, from the topics they talk about, from the targets they go after, the way they move, the way they organize, the things that suddenly they flip the script on. It's all been a psychological operation.
Yes.
from these
Well,
people.
the good
They-
news
they-
is Bongino also says that that they're all over the people, at least foreign funding of this operation, and who's pushing this, and who's the intermediary that is allowing foreign money to flow in and then basically disappear and be distributed. So I think we're getting ready to see some explosions in the next 2 months that are going to rock the foundation of the Democrat Party. I do.
I love when SK just sits there tight-lipped.
Anyway,
right.
they even talk about like internet content.
Yep.
They even talk about internet content, and there's one of the PDFs that's in there about for the narrative stuff that they use, and it gives you exactly the narrative to use, and it will say, you know, if someone is saying this, you say this. So we all know that Harry Sisson and Dean and those guys get literal talking points handed to them. They know
Mhm.
what the topics are for that period of time, and they tell them exactly how to counter the narrative because they know what the news cycle is. That's another thing they discuss in here that I knew they did it, but I wasn't really fully aware they did it. That international thing that I was telling you about, the Mediators International thing before we went live. I was looking at that, and they talk about how they're going to continue their conversation, and these are global leaders, but they're going to continue their conversation beyond the meeting through the media. So the stories that are planted, you know, when you see those people that have cut those videos together where it's like the news stations from all across the country are reading the exact
Yep.
same script. There you
Mhm.
go. That's the
exactly
right.
globalists.
That's exactly right. Can we pull up real quick? So Doxy asked the question, and I think what she's saying, are you talking about these kids getting foreign money? So I think we need to be clear. It's not as though China is reaching out to Harry Sisson and saying, we want to pay you to share propaganda. That's not how any of this works. And SK has laid this out, maybe in some cases, but SK has kind of laid out these networks, these intermediaries, like Arabella Advisors as a good example, right? There are these NGOs that sit out there. They take money in, and then money circles around through there, gets washed a few times, gets filtered, gets,
We call that
cleaned.
laundered.
We call it laundering, and
the-
then they pay it out. And SK, you've used an example, and I'd love you to share this example of somebody who was clearly a foreigner who was donating to a U.S. company and standing in front of Congress. They basically said that's a U.S. company. It's not foreign money. It's a U.S. company.
Yeah, I can't remember the guy's name again, but it was one of Soros's of thousands of under the Soros thing. And it was the Swedish dude, Weiss, or however
Yeah.
you say his last name. I don't know. English is my only language. They were talking about him and, you know, his NGO, his foundation. And, you know, he was like, you said earlier in questioning in this meeting, you said that you didn't take foreign money. I want to remind you that you're under oath. And he said, do you want to change the answer on that? Do you accept any foreign funding? And he said, we do not accept any foreign funding. I mean, with his whole chest, 10 toes down. And he said, well, what about this guy? And he said, well, his organization is called blah, 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 blah. And it is a registered US organization. And
That's
he
right.
said, but it's 100% funded by this guy that's not a US citizen. 100% of the money is his, and he's not a US citizen. And he said, it's a US organization.
That's right.
We don't take foreign money.
That's right. So these foreign influence operations, they're not reaching out to social media influencers or content creators or really anybody directly. I mean, Tucker Carlson is probably not getting paid directly from Qatar. That money is probably flowing through multiple organizations, being washed and made to look like it's coming from reputable companies, publishers, from media companies. And we saw a bunch of conservative content creators 2-3 years ago get wrapped up in this, that was funded unknowingly after multiple layers of Russian money flowing in. That's how they do it.
But with Arabella Advisors, just to be clear, Arabella Advisors is called a DAF. It's a donor advised fund. So you have these really wealthy people that donate money to these donor advised funds, and the donor advises where that money goes. So the donor says, I want you to donate it to this climate organization, this racial justice organization, and this education foundation, organization. And then the donor advised fund distributes the money to those organizations. So when you look at the 990s for these organizations, it says money came from one of the Arabella Advisors Fund, whether it's the 1630 Fund, whether it's the Northward Fund, the New Venture, whichever one it is, it came from that donor advised fund. It's a layer of protection for the donor. So
That's right.
you can have somebody like Bill Gates or Elon Musk or whoever donating tons of money to one of the Arabella or the entire Arabella umbrella. And then they tell them exactly who they want it to go to and they donate it, but it shields the person donating from people knowing this person donated to these organizations that do this activism. It just says that this donor advised fund donated to these organizations that do this activism.
Right. And then those organizations that do activism are also taking that money and they are scattering it around as well, are they not? So it is literally a nonprofit legalized money laundering operation. That's what it is. Money is being washed from all over the world through these companies, through multiple different activist organizations, and ultimately landing in piles of bricks sitting on the street corner as Antifa is getting ready to destroy a country or a city.
And I would just like to say we don't have anything close to this on the right side of the aisle. We have, well, we used to have, not anymore. But Coke was really the only one that was even semi sort of on the right that was doing a lot of this stuff.
Now he's part of it. He's part of their network now.
He's New Pluralists, which again
right.
is this whole bridging thing. Mark Gerzon, remember the whole video that we played that Data Republican posted on her her X account with Mark Gerzon talking about the secret meeting with Soros and Coke, and it's like he said too much already, and he was like, I got to think about NDAs and how I can word this to not say too much, which he already said too much.
Yep.
That's New Pluralists because they want pluralism. They don't want populism. They want pluralism.
That's right. That's right. Doxy asked, how is this legal? Well, because it hasn't been made illegal yet. That's why it's legal.
And this is also where it gets a little bit dicey too, because you have a certain portion of the population pushing to overturn Citizens United, which all Citizens United said was that corporations and businesses have rights like
Correct.
individuals. So they have free speech rights the same as everyone else. And this all came about, Citizens United came about because of a documentary. I think Michael Moore made it.
Yep.
About Hillary Clinton, and it was going to be aired on like PBS or something like that. And the lawsuit was brought saying this is like campaigning for a candidate, and this hasn't been claimed. You can't do this. And they were like, that's when the Supreme Court ruled that corporations have rights like people. They
right.
have rights.
And look, I think you can have both, right? You can have a world where Citizens United makes sense. And I've made the argument over the years that it does make sense because corporations are really just people. It is a collection of people working towards a similar goal. Where I think you have to figure out a solution here is not in just throwing out the baby with the bathwater and getting rid of the reality that corporations are in fact people. But if those corporations are engaging in things that ultimately end up causing damage or breaking the law, then that's not freedom of speech anymore. I think this is really just a simple understanding of what activities are those firms actually engaging in. If it's just speech, fine. If they're funding revolution, that's not fine.
And see, the Republicans for a long time did have a solid fundraising, funding apparatus, you could say, but it wasn't all intricate and shady and like it is now.
Mhm.
And a lot of the things that they're doing aren't necessarily illegal on its face. Well, some of them, like the ones that have been talked about a lot, they're doing things that are outright illegal.
That's right.
But just like the guy said when he was in Congress and he's like, you're under oath. Do you take foreign funding? And he was like, no, that's a US NGO. That's not against the law. But what we had to do was figure out, how do you stop this? There's no box on the IRS form 990 for them to check, saying this. Where do you draw the line? How do you prevent foreign people from starting organizations or foundations in the United States? Because we don't want that. And we need to know, and it should be disclosed if somebody's taking foreign money. If Patriot Dad or Nam or I are getting a check from someone that's from out of the country and we have FARA registration or whatever, we should have to have FARA registration. You should
Mhm.
be able to go and look up SK Double Dub or Patriot Dad and see that there's a FARA registration because we are taking money from a foreign country.
That's right. I know this is way off topic, but I saw this hit the chat and I just had to throw it up here. This girl, Marlo, says, do the Milton Friedman bros know he started Europe's oldest oligarchs club, the Mont Pelerin Society, with George Soros as mentor? No, they do not know that. They don't. Sorry, they don't know that.
And
Most people don't know that.
I cannot wait
Who are the
for
Milton Friedman bros? Was she talking about us?
Losers-tarians? No, losers-tarians.
Oh.
Losers-tarians are.
Oh.
Look, Milton Friedman's great. He had a lot of really succinct ways of explaining basic economics. But the reality is, the Austrian School of Economics, where he came out of, is where globalism came out of. SK, you were going to say something?
I was just going to say, I cannot wait for Data Republican's book to come out, because
She got another one? Or didn't the one already come out? Or is she doing
no,
another one?
it's all been pre-sale because she
Oh, I see.
chose a small publisher, so she had to pre-sell
Yep.
books in order to start printing and all that. It comes out in October, but I can't wait for it to come out because it is mostly about George Soros. The book kind of evolved over time, but it started out to be mostly about George Soros, and she got access to millions and millions, I'm not joking, of documents. And it's crazy to think that George Soros started out as being anti-communism.
Yep. Because he was a fascist. The fascists and communists hated each other until they actually realized that, hey, we're basically the same thing.
The same thing.
Right.
Took them a while. It took them no longer having to fight after one another.
It's a circle.
It's all the same thing. It's all the same thing. It's crazy to me when I hear DSA talk about going after fascists. Folks, I'm just going to help you understand why they do that. Because in Europe, back when these systems were being developed, fascists were the equivalent of capitalists. That's why they call you a fascist, because you're a capitalist and they know that you don't like the word fascist.
But when Hitler took over, weren't they pushing socialism before Hitler actually got into power? So aren't the Nazis actually socialists?
Yeah, they're socialists for sure.
That's not why they call us fascists.
That is why. Well, it is. No. They use the term fascist because they know that it hurts when you're called a fascist, or it's supposed to hurt. But
no, it's a dehumanization tactic.
Right.
They call us fascists so that they feel justified in killing us.
Well, true. That's all true.
That's all it is.
But to them, fascist is in fact a capitalist.
I thought a fascist was like control.
It is for people who understand what fascism is, but for a communist who were fighting for their life in Europe during the time that these systems were being developed, where this language is still pulled from, fascists were viewed by communists who were being thrown in jail by these people as capitalists. because they didn't confiscate the resources of the producers, which is what communism wanted them to do. That was the rift between the fascists and the communists. Is the fascists were like, yeah, I mean, these are our countrymen. We're not really going to take all their stuff from them. We'll control it all, but we'll give them the illusion that they still have ownership. So they were viewed as the capitalists of the day, even though they're not capitalists at all. But they hated each other because they were basically fighting over the same people.
Got it. Okay. Where to next?
So I think I have been fascinated by the use of, by DSA specifically, by their use of this effort to try to reduce the individualism of every single person in the country down to a worker. I've been amazed at how successful that's been. People are willing to forget who they are, where they come from, the things that they spent years developing skill and expertise in, and are suddenly now willing to be called workers. To me, it's baffling to me, particularly when it's done by the people who actually make up the DSA. I don't know if you guys have seen these studies that are done, but DSA is not a workers' movement. Not even close. Can you pull up DSA is for white rich people? One?
Yep.
Are evidently overeducated and white, you're probably very comfortable with these socialists. People are under the impression that this is a minority working class move. It is not.
Well, Lenin and Trotsky, they were highly educated. They also came from means. We're seeing, I think, something similar today in this country.
All right, here is Megan Romer. She is the national co-chair of the Democratic Socialists of America on the criticism that the party is a working class party without many workers, taking it seriously and taking steps to change it. Listen.
What do you respond to the criticism that some of the members, many of the members, according to that survey at least, may lack some of the lived experience requisite for commenting on the conditions of the working class?
We have since begun polling folks as they enter the org, as they become members. And we've also, we take it seriously that our demographics do not map as closely to the working class writ large as we would like them to be. And we have taken on a number of initiatives, including.
I want to pause real quick because it's fascinating to me that they've built this entire movement. They've done all of this research, all of this work, all of these super, super smart people, and they did all of this to benefit the workers. They absolutely forgot that none of them have ever been a worker, and they don't actually understand what the workers do.
This is the fundamental flaw, the original sin of the politics of confiscation.
Yes.
Overeducated, underdeveloped, stupid, smart people, people who can't produce anything, have been radicalized to think that they're smarter than everybody else, and they can organize the affairs of people that they have no idea who they are or what drives them, what influence. They don't know. They don't know. You have a bunch of rich white people who are building a system for the worker. If you ever needed proof that these people are setting up a system where they know they are going to be at the top, everybody else is going to be at the bottom, the fact that they even forgot to bring in the workers to their movement should be all you need to know.
I think this is like the perfect example of intelligence and education are not the same thing.
Yeah,
you
they
can be
don't
highly
parallel,
educated and absolutely stupid at the same time.
Well, the problem is that they're not even highly educated, right? So most of these people, they may have master's degrees and some are even PhDs, but they're hyper focused on one thing, right? That's it, on maybe one or two topics, one or two areas. And it just so happens for these people, none of it is anything that's actually valuable or productive to society, which while they're doing this, they're also complaining about not being able to pay off their student loans.
Holy crap.
Right?
I saw on TikTok yesterday, I almost grabbed the video. I might have actually grabbed it somewhere. there was this girl, right? She was sitting in her car doing the white liberal girl cry thing that they love to do. They love to sit in their car and cry on their phone. And she was going on and on and on about how she has a master's degree in environmental science, and she is working as a retail manager.
Yes.
And the people in her comments were destroying this person, destroying her. And I think I even jumped in and I was like, congratulations, you got a worthless degree. And she got a worthless degree because she has been gaslit by these people telling her that the things that she cared about, the environment, was actually worthwhile.
Imagine falling for a gender studies degree. I literally know people that went to a very good school and were studying gender studies.
I think the way real quick, let me say this. I think the way I phrased my comment was, you got a worthless degree in junk science. Congratulations.
I don't understand a gender studies degree, and these people have no understanding of what gender is. So you could. Did they spend 4 years studying genders because there's like 500 different? I don't understand. There's two, folks. There's two. There's two.
Gender studies is the study of how to confuse people.
Why do you need 4 years to study the fact? That's biology. Listen, you should have been a scientist, because I don't understand what's happening here.
That's great. So I want to go to number 2, because I think number 2 is a screenshot of what the makeup currently of the DSA is. So DSA, I love the way I titled this. DSA is for rich white people.
Is it this one?
Yep, this one.
Yeah.
So this comes from Red Wave Press. The Democrat, Socialist, Communist confiscators. I've got to get everyone on board. Folks, they're confiscators. That's what they are. They're confiscators of America is not a working class party. 80% are college educated. 45% report incomes under $60,000. That means 55, more than half, make over $60,000 a year.
Stop.
What?
Because I want to bring this back up. 80% are college educated, but 45% report incomes under $60,000.
Oh, I said that wrong, didn't I?
Yes. 45 report incomes under 45%. So that means all of these college educated people have not figured out how to convert their stupid, useless underwater basket weaving degree with a minor in gender studies confusion.
Now you know why they're mad.
This is why they're mad. And we did a whole series of videos on this. If I can escape for just 1 second, please. You people were lied to. And the people who lied to you are the ones who filled this shit into your heads. And you're not mad at them at all. You're mad at the wrong people. They're mad at the wrong fucking people. They should be mad at the universities and these professors that sold them literally a bill of goods with no material that came with the piece of paper. They're mad at the wrong people.
That's right. SK, what were you going to say before Nom steamrolled you?
No, he didn't steamroll me.
Oh.
I was trying to talk, and I was about to cut him off, and he saw the thought. He didn't steamroll me at all. No, what I was gonna say is they're really pissed off because they spent all that money getting that degree and they're not making the money. The people that they're pissed off at really aren't the elites. It's all of the blue collar workers, the people that went to trade school for plumbing and being an electrician and all those things, and they own 3 work trucks or 5 work trucks, and they have all these workers, and they go out and they straight out of trade school make 6 figures a year, and then they grow their business and they end up selling their business for tens of millions of dollars, and all of a sudden, like, they're like, you're the elite, you're the oligarch, and the dude's just standing there covered in grease like, bro, I went to trade school and I worked my ass off, and I didn't pay for college and spend all this money and go into debt to get a useless degree like you did so you could work retail. I busted my ass and worked hard and built something, because that's what you do in this country, is you build something in order to make money. That is why they're angry, because people like my son go to trade school, don't really like to sit in class and learn. They like to work with their hands. They go to trade school, they graduate from trade school, and they're making 3 times as much as their friends that are in college. And now that kids are starting to graduate college and he's making 6 figures and they're still trying to find a job that will pay them, $48,000 a year
That's
with their
exactly
useless
right.
degree, so they can then work their way up the corporate ladder or whatever NGO, because most of the people on the left are working for NGOs. NGOs employ a shitload of people in this country. You can go look at the job listings. They're paying 6 figures for people to sit at home and work from home.
Hey, by the way, before Patriot Dad gets in this, I want everybody in this country that is sort of on the fence about whether socialism is a good idea and confiscation, all this stuff. The people, the blue collar folks that SK just described, that these socialists and these communists and these thieves and confiscators are really the ones that they're mad at. That's who they intend to confiscate from. That's who they intend to steal the products of your productivity, the results of your productivity, which is that business you spent 30 years building and you sold for $10 million. That's what they intend to steal.
Wait, Nam, are you telling me right now that they are building a system where they're trying to convince workers that they need the confiscators to confiscate their own wealth from them?
Their own wealth. And then
so they can redistribute it back to the confiscators?
Well,
so the confiscators are basically creating a system
it's never going to be distributed.
Well, I know. They're basically trying to create a system where they can take from people who, holy crap, they say they're trying to help, when in fact
build things.
They're just setting them up to be the ones they steal from.
Yes.
Oh, yes. I'm making that video tomorrow.
Yeah.
You got to beat me to it. You probably will, because you get up early in the morning. Can you bring this back up? Because they have other problems.
Golf early in the morning.
They have other problems.
And understand that when they tell people they're going to redistribute it, they also add that it's going to be redistributed equitably. So based on your subjective experience in life, if you live in an inner city area that's mostly minority and poor, you've experienced a lot of racism in your life. So you're going to get better health care. They're literally going to discriminate against people based on skin color, based on all kinds of crazy things that have nothing at all to do with anything. That's why the American model is the best model on the planet, because you can go from living in the inner city in a majority minority area, and you can have the worst deck of cards dealt to you. You can go from being homeless, and you can become anything it is that you want to become if you just work really hard at it and find something that you're good at, or be innovative and invent something new that everyone needs and everyone wants. You have to think harder, work harder. Every single person has a phone in their hand. You can make money from your phone that you got for free from the government. Literally, you can make money from your phone.
I paid for that shit.
Well, but I mean, we're talking.
Yeah, I know. I hear you.
They're always saying, but there's no opportunity. You literally have like the world's library in your hand. You can learn anything you want to learn on your own, and you can make money from your phone. You don't even have to leave your house.
So they have another problem too. It's not just a problem that their ranks are made up of white people or rich people, or I'm sorry, college educated people. It's that it's made up of 85% white people also. So this really is a white organization who is trying to misappropriate the life experiences of other people and build a system where they think they're going to be able to help the 8% of Hispanic, the 5% of Asian Americans, and the 4% of Blacks that are actually listening to them. Yeah. White collar, 71%. Only 4% of the DSA are actual blue collar workers who are the ones out making all the money right now. Did you know that you can basically be a plumber and make a strong 6-figure income these days?
Oh, yeah.
A plumber.
You can make a 6-figure income basically straight out of trade school. And if you go to trade school while you're in high school, that means straight out of high school, you can be making 6 figures in some states. And in low cost of living states, you can almost be making 6 figures straight out of high school.
I saw Mike Rowe. I saw a video Mike Rowe was doing. He was talking about what Meta is doing. Meta's got a program right now for electricians where they will hire you They will put you on salary while they send you to, I think, a 5-week electrician training and get certified. They will pay for the training while they're paying for you. They'll pay you per diem while you're there, eat, hotel, all of that stuff. And then you go and you are making $150,000 to $200,000 a year as an electrician for Meta, building their data centers. And it took you a couple of months to, and not only do you have a job with Meta, if you decide that you don't want to work there and you want to leave, you keep your certifications, you're gone, but they paid for it. Folks, what we are looking at here is a group of disgruntled white, probably came from affluent, rich families who wasted a lot of time and a lot of money, and now they're in debt and they're disgruntled and they're mad and they're going to go ahead and steal from the people who didn't do all of the things that they did. They actually went and got certifications. They built businesses. They created things. They built things. And these fucking losers, because that's what they are. Have you seen the people that attend these meetings?
Oh, yeah.
Have you seen what they look like and what they sound like? Hold on. You're supposed to clap your hands instead of clapping because I have auditory sensory issues. It's insane. These people are insane.
I'm going to find that video because I want to show you. I actually have a video of what one of their audiences look like so you can see it. But Nam, can you pull up?
To be fair, that's how you clap in sign language.
I understand that,
but they're not
that's
deaf.
Not why they're doing it. That's not why they're doing it. They're not deaf.
They're just. Can you pull up DSA is for rich white people 3 for me real quick? Because this one is funny.
Is it this one?
The couple reported $686,000 in household income, which is about 9 times the median income in Michigan. And it's also been reported that a major financial backer of his campaign is his father-in-law, who is also a doctor, to the tune of reportedly $300,000. So yes, further proving the point, socialism for thee, not for me.
Yeah, that's right. And did you guys know that his wife, Saeed's wife, the guy that's running for Senate in Michigan, owns a clinic, I believe, that doesn't accept any insurance, and yet she's demanding universal health care, but doesn't accept any insurance at all. Did you know that?
Cash only, a boutique healthcare giver?
Yeah, I don't know all that detail, but I know she's not accepting insurance. She just forces people to pay out of pocket for it.
Yeah, you just pay a fee, a monthly fee, and you can see and talk to your doctor whenever you want to.
That's right. All right, folks. I'm not going to pull that video up. You guys probably know what it looks like. It's a group of people wearing masks with blue hair and septum rings and wildly overweight. You can't really tell whether they're men or women. They kind of all blur together. It's just a hodgepodge of people who are silently clapping and clocking each other. That's what the DSA looks like, but they're all white. Every one of them are white. And everyone probably spent 6 years in college spending $200,000 and have absolutely no future in front of them because of it.
Here's a question I have, though. So they are all white, right? The ones that are attending all these meetings and stuff, but the politicians, the one that they're actually putting up for, as candidates are not.
Well, there's a reason for that.
Yeah.
I had this video. I'm going to find this. You guys talk for a second. You guys need to see this. We didn't get a chance to play this last time. I think it's in, here it is right here. All right. I'm going to pull this up. Give me just 1 second and you'll understand exactly why it is that they are using the candidates they're using. It is not an accident. This one right here.
Stuff down while we do.
Here we go.
You're going to have to bring it up. It just brings it into the green room.
Yeah, I know.
It's particularly important, not just for our community in Tigray, but communities of the global South, period, right? There's a certain reckoning that we are going to have with the global world order as it exists today and the way that it fundamentally will have to shift going forward, right? The responsibility that we have as Americans, the recognition that is going to be required of us, of the exploitative and extractive nature that we play on the global scale and the global stage is only going to be challenged if we are getting represented by people who understand that on a fundamental level, right? And that means getting more immigrants into office. That means getting more people who have heritage in the global South into office, because that's where those decisions are made specifically.
Did you catch that? They are intentionally importing their representatives from foreign countries because they feel like they have a better grasp on the global culture.
Because the globalists right now are fighting against colonialism. That's why they use global south. That's why they're always emphasizing global south. They're fighting against colonialism.
They're fighting the wrong people.
Exactly. And this is how they are going to usher in this reset, this internationalism and the socialism and the communism, because this can't exist in the United States with our Constitution and the American system. It has to be completely torn down, and in order for them to have the things that they say that they want. The DSA's platform is not compatible with the Constitution of the United States of America.
Yeah, no. If I remember correctly, someone asked, "Is she from PragerU?" No, I believe that woman is the one who just the DSA member who just won in Colorado, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
So, folks, here's the really, really complicated part. The part that I think a lot of us are really struggling to figure out how to communicate correctly. What she just articulated, SK's right. They actually think that they're fighting against colonialism, and they are. The problem is, we are not the colonizers. The British imperialist system are the colonizers. And here's what the British have been so successful in doing over the last 200 years is actually building up both sides to conflict with each other so that that system continues. Because the system that they are implementing is in fact the same globalist system. It's the same one. As a matter of fact, I'm reading a book right now. It's called How the British Invented Communism and Then Blamed the Jews. The systems that they are talking about using to crush colonialism were built by the freaking colonizers.
That is crazy to me because, hold on, that's crazy to me because I swear that I've seen the losertarian faggots out there literally saying that the Jews invented communism.
No. Do you know where Marx was educated? London.
Yeah.
London.
One of those.
You know where Lenin was educated? Maybe? You know where Lenin was educated?
Probably
by the
Cambridge,
British.
I don't know.
By the British. By the British. Yeah.
Okay.
They educated both of them. Yeah. And then they blamed it on the Jews because that's what the British system does. It takes both sides, creates them, pits them against each other, and that's how their imperialist system continues for centuries. They just continue doing what they're doing. They get the same results out of both systems because they created them both. The problem for them is the American system is the one that is always cut right down the middle, and that's why every president who's tried to implement the American system has been assassinated or attempted to have been assassinated, because it's the only one that cuts through the heart of the colonizers' mechanisms to keep people fighting against each other. All right, last thing. Sorry, go ahead, Tom. What were you gonna say?
I was going to say, you want to end on that note, or you got
no,
one more thing?
I do. I want to set up where we're going next week and the weeks beyond. There's a video in here. I think we have it. Do we have it pulled up? Yes. Pull up Mom Donnie Explains. You guys need to hear this because this is where we're going to be going over the next couple of weeks through the show, is explaining what he's talking about here.
We know that in 2028, yes, we have an opportunity to move beyond the current federal administration. And that begs the question, to what? And I think that it is time to be able to not only have a vision, but to deliver on that vision. And what we're showing here in New York City is that it is possible to put working people back at the heart of our politics and then also deliver for them at the same time.
Except he's not doing that in New York City unless you consider getting raises for your party members, and that's it. I mean, has there been free buses? Do we have free grocery stores yet? What do we have? We have more rent controls.
That message was not to the people of New York City.
And apparently everybody in New York City, if you have a second home, you need to be checking your mailbox because you've got something in your mailbox.
That message was not to the people of New York City. That was a directional explanation for where the DSA is planning to go in the near future. What is it going to look like after the Constitution is what he's starting to set up the conversation around. And that's what we're going to talk
Well,
about.
we already know that because we've
Well,
already
we
told
do.
you.
Well, we do, but most people don't. So we're going to tell them again.
The Declaration of Interdependence, guys.
That's right.
Well, let me just say this, right? Because I know Patriot Dad, you did a video earlier today, and I did a duet on it. What these folks are doing, this is, so what SK just mentioned, the Declaration of Interdependence, that is a declaration of war. Okay, they are declaring war against our Constitution, and the only way that they get to do the things that they intend to do is through civil war. There is no democratic way to abolish the Senate. There is no democratic way to abolish or subjugate the judiciary. There is no democratic way to essentially destroy the concepts of federalism and statehood and the sovereignty of states. There's no democratic way to do that except to destroy the Constitution, and you only accomplish that through civil war. And the only way you're successful is if you win that civil war. There's no other way that this happens.
That's right.
You don't do this democratically. You can't.
Well, we're going to show how they plan to do it. And we'll have some strong debates on whether or not one way is the right way or not, whether they're all aligned, because they're not. And they openly tell you that there's multiple different vehicles they think are the right vehicle. One vehicle is probably the most extreme. There's other ones that are probably a little bit less extreme or a little more palpable, but they are right now starting to think about, what does a post-constitutional society look like? And the question that we need to ask is, how are they going to do it? How are they going to get there? Well, Nam just nailed it. They're going to have to do it through revolution and through a civil war.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's no democratic way to do it. There's no
legal
avenue to accomplish these things. And I did see this meme. I saw there are calls coming out of the House Republicans for a Logan Act investigation of Zoran Moslami and his administration, because they tried to basically go around the administration and meet with IRGC leaders why we're literally engaged in a conflict with them. We'll see if that goes anywhere. I don't have a lot of confidence in that sort of stuff. It's a Logan Act, whatever.
Well, and there's also some conversation around whether or not they have direct ties to some of these terrorist organizations, Hamas, Hezbollah, those people, the Houthis. That may be a thread that gets pulled on and probably will produce a little more fruit. But all right, and last thing I have for you guys. So tomorrow night, we are again turning over the podcast to the back office production team. So Garding sent us a note right before he went off to bed. It says, tomorrow we'll be honoring the fallen troops with a video and music that we put together, the 2020 election, Venezuela, and satirical Jewish space lasers. That sounds like that'll be fun. So if you're free tomorrow night, 9:30 Eastern, the back office team is going to be taking over the after hour show. Otherwise, SK Nam, anything else you want to add before we wrap?
I'm excited to hear this new song.
I don't think so. I'm excited to hear this new song and watch the new video.
New song.
You guys ready?
New video. Oh, and by the way, Garding actually just sent us the full version. So part 1 and part 2, and a full song that we can then just start plastering all over social media, because this needs to become the new anthem, folks. So when you see this on my X account, or Nam or SK's X account, or the Patriot Source Podcast X account, grab it, save it, and share it everywhere, because the American people need something to rally behind.
Yes. And make sure you hit the like button, the thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't. Make sure you come back and watch the replay. If you're watching the replay, leave a comment, type replay crew, whatever it is, and share this content all over the place, because there are not a lot of people watching right now, but the right people are paying attention. And I think we'll have some announcements coming up in the next few weeks about that. But make sure you guys are watching and sharing everything everywhere you can.
That's right. Guarding the grids, best work yet.
Every flag they raised left a nation in scars. Count the cost in bread lines, in walls and in bars. So we bring you the truth, and we're bringing the fight. This patriot source, holding the line. Only you can prevent it. Only you hold the line, never bend it. Never again, we won't back down. Only you can hold communism down. Not here, not now, not ever. Not here, not now, not ever. One voice, one line, one stand. Freedom, don't kneel. It commands. Only